Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
It's good to have you with us again today, and it's our News Watch unit for the month of October. And we've got a couple of stories to talk about today. One is an extreme athlete who spent some time underground in Spain, and then we've also got a robotic elephant in India that wants to sort of lessen animal cruelty there.
Which is great. But as we always do, guys, we read through both stories, and then we come back and kind of break down some of these words and phrases for you. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. And remember, this is our all-English unit. There's no Chinese teacher. So, Tom, no Chinese today.
不可以讲中文, huh?
No, and no Spanish or any other foreign language. And we will try to speak a little more slowly, maybe a little more clearly. That would help too, huh? Here we go. Extreme athlete emerges after 500 days underground. This April, Beatrice Flamini, an extreme athlete, emerged from an underground cave near Granada, Spain, after a remarkable 500-day isolation. On November 20th, 2021, Flamini ventured 70 meters beneath the surface and stayed there, aiming to put her personal endurance to the test, while also contributing to scientific research on extreme isolation. While underground, Flamini was aided by a support crew that delivered food to a set location. The crew also monitored her mental and physical condition through videos that Flamini recorded in the cave. Researchers from the University of Granada are studying how the effects of prolonged isolation and lack of exposure to sunlight had affected Flamini's perception of time. Flamini briefly exited the cave due to a technical issue, but eventually resumed her ambitious undertaking. Her underground activities included exercising, reading, weaving, and drawing. Upon leaving, she voiced surprise at how quickly the time had passed. She later told reporters that she never thought of giving up early, and in fact, didn't want to come out.
Indian temple aims to curb animal cruelty with robotic elephant. In a move to curb animal cruelty, the Iranjadapalli Sri Krishna Temple in Kerala, India, inaugurated a 3.3-meter-tall, 800-kilogram robotic elephant earlier this year. This creation features moving eyes and ears and was donated by People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, PETA, India. By conducting religious ceremonies using this mechanical elephant, the temple can help end the suffering of captive elephants. Kerala is home to around 2,500 such elephants, many of which are being kept illegally or have been transported without permission. According to PETA, elephants kept in captivity are often abused. As a result, they can show signs of psychological distress and may end up harming humans. Over a period of 15 years, captive elephants in Kerala have reportedly been responsible for 526 human deaths. One tragic case is Techi Kotukavu Ramachandran, a temple elephant held captive for about 40 years that is said to have killed 13 people. Temple authorities hope other temples will follow their lead in embracing this cruelty-free innovation. Okay, it's time for us to discuss the contents of our News Watch unit for the month of October. Again, it's our all-English unit, so we've given the Chinese teacher the day off. And the first story is about an extreme athlete who emerges after 500 days underground. So 500 days is more than a year and not too far from being actually 2 years. And this person actually spent that time, 500 days, underground and not above ground. And this is actually a woman here by the name of Beatrice Flamini. In this April, just a couple of months ago, an extreme athlete emerged from an underground cave near Granada, Spain, after a remarkable 500-day isolation. So isolation, of course, refers to when you are kept by yourself. If you've been a bad boy in the prison or something like that, they separate you and put you into a separate cell. You are in isolation.
Yeah, typically that's how we say it. We would say after a remarkable 500 days Notice it's no longer an adjective if I put the S on the day. 500 days in isolation. Nobody else around. I don't think I'd like that. I do like to be alone quite a bit, but wow, that's too much alone time or too much me time. We're going to talk about why it's an extreme sport. When we say extreme athlete, it's somebody who participates in any sports that are considered very high risk or very dangerous. Maybe they're going at very high speeds or it's just dangerous. We'd never had anybody who was in isolation that long under the underground, which is a kind of a crazy idea. But yeah, she was willing to do it. I don't know what if there was a prize at the end of it, I don't know. But I wouldn't want to do this myself. We're going to talk about what she went through, though. Remember, her name is Beatrice Flamini.
Right, and she emerged from isolation. She came out of the ground, and on November 20th, 2021, Flamini ventured 70 meters beneath the surface and stayed there, aiming to put her personal endurance to the test, while also contributing to scientific research on extreme isolation. So this happened, or at least it began, in November of 2021. And she ventured, or she went into the ground. It was 70 meters beneath the surface of the Earth, which is quite far down there. Maybe she went into a former mine or something like that. We don't really know.
Yeah, I was thinking, what did it look like? Was it a whole, kind of a room? Or did she have many rooms? Did she have AC, air conditioning, or heat?
Those are good questions.
Yeah.
And of course, she did have enough food there. I think people came and gave her supplies.
Yeah.
But again, she spent 70 meters beneath the surface or under the surface of the Earth, and she stayed there. And the reason she did this was because she was aiming to put her personal endurance to the test. That was her goal. If you aim for something, you have a goal. And endurance just refers to how well you're able to handle yourself in extreme situations, how you can endure or how you can act in a certain situation that is unpleasant or very difficult. Of course, if you want to run a marathon, you have to have great endurance because after a while it starts to hurt a lot and you're very tired, but you need to keep on going despite the pain.
I don't think I paid enough attention to this. She was in a cave. So she wasn't in a house that was built under the ground. And she's not a young person. She was 50 when she went into this cave. She took 60 books with her to read, art and craft supplies to keep her entertained for a bit. And she just wanted to help shed some light or maybe help people understand better what a body would go through when they're in total isolation, no one else around. So she was in a cave.
This can happen, of course, in different kinds of situations. I suppose they're doing this as preparation for space missions where astronauts have to spend lots of time all alone in outer space. Or if you're someone trying to sail across the Pacific Ocean, you'll be all by yourself. You will have isolation there. So again, she wanted to put her personal endurance to the test. She wanted to see if she could take it, if she could handle it. But at the same time, she was contributing to scientific research on extreme isolation. So the information that she provided may have been useful to scientists who study this for future application or for them to write scientific papers or scientific articles for journals.
Well, and recently, just the last couple of years, I've read where very wealthy people are building themselves these bomb shelters where they can live underground. The rest of us will die, of course. But the rich people will be kept alive in their shelters. So maybe they wanted to see how someone would do after 500 days. Well, she got herself all set and she went beneath the surface and stayed there. And as Tom said, she was aiming, or she set this as a goal, to put her personal endurance to the test. You can test your endurance by doing things like how many hours can you run, or how many minutes can you hold your breath. Anything to kind of force your body to go to an extreme length to do something. Maybe your endurance is more mental or emotional that you're trying to test. But athletes, especially really top world athletes, are always trying to expand their endurance. so that they can do something faster or longer than normal people typically could. So she was trying to test her personal endurance and also contribute, as Tom said, to scientific research on what a person goes through when they're in extreme isolation.
Right. Of course, if you're by yourself for a day or two, that's just regular isolation. But if you're by yourself for many months or many years, that would be extreme isolation. Now, moving on now to the next paragraph. It says, while underground, Flamini was aided by a support crew that delivered food to a set location. So she had food down there. She was not going to starve. She probably had plenty of water and a way to dispose of her poop and pee while she was down there. And she probably had ways to replenish the oxygen supply because she probably was breathing a lot of air there and turning it into carbon dioxide. So they probably had to have some sort of air conditioning or something like that. And the crew also monitored her mental and physical condition through videos that Flamini recorded in the cave. So this special crew of people, this support crew, had various responsibilities. They delivered food to a set location, and they also looked at TV monitors, making sure she was mentally okay, that she wasn't going crazy. And also, they monitored her physical condition to make sure she wasn't getting hurt, like tripping and breaking a leg or something like that.
Yeah, you never know, right? She was so far away from everybody. But they were able to keep an eye on her, you could say, by using some of their equipment while she was underground. You know, who knows? Maybe she would suddenly have a heart attack or something like that, or a stroke. But they were watching her, and they were able to deliver the food, the water she needed. I read she went through 1,000 liters of water while she was underground, and I'm sure she ate plenty of food. I'm sure she also just kind of got tired of being in a small space. That would drive me nuts.
Yeah, she probably did some exercise too. She probably had an exercise routine, maybe some exercise equipment or something like that. So, yes, you got to keep in shape. And, of course, she did survive, though. She did come out of the ground after 500 days. And moving on here, it's we got researchers here from the University of Granada, and they're studying how the effects of prolonged isolation and lack of exposure to sunlight had affected Flamini's perception of time. So this was a study conducted by researchers at the University of Granada, and they were studying the effects of prolonged isolation. Prolonged just means extended isolation that goes on for a long time. And also she was underground there and was not exposed to sunlight. Sunlight's important, of course. And we need to be exposed to sun, especially for vitamin D production, but there are probably other benefits as well. And also, if you're underground and you don't see day and night, you probably lose track of time.
Yeah, definitely. That would be hard. So they were researching this. So they've got some scientists that are looking at the data they're collecting. All of the information they're collecting is called data. And they were studying the effects of what this prolonged, or if something's prolonged, it's just the time is extended in some way. They wanted to know how someone would react to being in isolation for that long. That's a long, long time. And how it affected her perception of time. Have you ever been somewhere and the time goes really fast and you think, wow, are you kidding? It's been 8 hours? It's usually when you're doing something fun. And then you've been in the opposite situation where you're kind of miserable and the time just seems to go so slowly. Yeah, that's probably when you're doing something you don't like. She did briefly exit or leave the cave due to a technical issue. Maybe some of the cameras weren't working or some of the equipment that they monitored her on, had a problem. But eventually, she resumed her ambitious undertaking. If you resume something, you start something after you've stopped for a while. Maybe you went to college for a couple of years, and then you got married, had kids, and then you resumed your college education after your kids were older. Now, if you're ambitious, you have big goals, and you want to accomplish something that's quite difficult, and you don't give up easily. You have a very strong desire or determination to succeed if you're ambitious. Undertaking is just something you do. So her whole prolonged time in isolation was her undertaking. So it's a task you do, a task you take on.
A task, a challenge, or whatever, and her underground activities included exercise, reading, weaving, and drawing. So those are ways that she kept herself occupied. Weaving just means you're making some kind of cloth, and she was practicing her drawing skills as well. Maybe she did some painting as well, we don't know. But upon leaving, or when she left, she voiced surprise at how quickly the time had passed. Here, voice is being used as a verb. She just said, wow, the time really flew by. I was having such a great time. I'd like to go down there for another 500 days. I don't know if she actually said that, but she later told reporters that she never thought of giving up early and, in fact, didn't want to come out. My goodness, I guess she got used to it, and maybe life above ground isn't so great after all.
Who knows? Right now, guys, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back to continue on with our second story, which is about those robotic elephants. Welcome back, guys. It's our News Watch, and we're on our second news story, which occurred in India. And the headline reads, Indian temple aims to curb animal cruelty with robotic elephant. So if you're someone who loves elephants, and I do, I think they're so great. And they understand a lot. They're also friends with other elephants. I like that too. You probably will want to find out how they're trying to protect the elephants in this particular Indian temple, which is great.
And, of course, the people there are trying to end, or at least to reduce, the amount of cruelty that these elephants have to suffer. Cruelty here, of course, refers to being really mean, being indifferent, and causing pain and suffering to other living things. Of course, we don't like animal cruelty, but there are people out there who like to beat their dogs and things like that. That's an example of animal cruelty. And they want to curb this. They want to reduce it with this robotic elephant. It's kind of an elephant that's a robot. Now, here in the first paragraph, it says, in a move or in an effort to curb animal cruelty, the Iranjadapalli Sri Krishna Temple in Kerala, India, inaugurated a 3.3-meter-tall, 800-kilogram robotic elephant earlier this year. So that's what they're trying to do here. They're trying to reduce animal cruelty. So what they did at this temple in India, in the town of Kerala, they inaugurated this robotic elephant. Okay, to inaugurate just means to introduce something, to begin using it. You can have an inauguration, for example, if you've chosen a new leader, if you've had an election and there's going to be a new president, then you inaugurate the president on a special day and there's a big celebration and there's fireworks and all fun stuff like that. So here they introduced this robotic elephant that's 3.3 meters tall, which is pretty tall, and it's 800 kilograms in weight, which is pretty heavy. And they did that earlier this year.
That's really heavy, actually. 800 kilograms. Woo! So they've got a pretty big robotic elephant. I haven't seen it, so I would love to see this.
I think it still weighs less than a real elephant, though.
Oh,
I think elephants weigh much more than that.
They're heavy, heavy creatures. I was watching a little elephant being born and learning how to walk online. I love the little animal videos, I must say. They're so cute. And they almost immediately have to get up. And first of all, they're pretty big. And I think, oh, I hope it doesn't hurt the mama elephant to have the baby elephant. Because, wow, that's not a small little animal. He or she is born, and then they have to get on their legs and move because they need to feed with their mom. And the only way they can do it is to stand up. So it's the same with cows and calves. If that calf can't get up immediately and can't get to the mom can't bring the milk to them.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, they need to get up and walk around almost immediately. So this is a pretty big elephant. Remember, it's robotic. It's like a robot. And this creation features moving eyes and ears. Ooh. So they've tried to animate the face. If you animate something, you get it to move. We make cartoons, and we call them animations, animated films. So, it has moving eyes and ears. Where did it come from? Well, it was donated by a group called People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals which we know as PETA in America and abroad. They're a very famous group. They're always trying to protect animals. One thing they're famous for is they don't like the women or men who wear fur coats. So they will often kind of harass these people and throw paint and things on their fur coats as a demonstration against killing animals for fur. So they were donating this robotic elephant. To donate means you give something away. You can donate money, you can donate time, you can donate your blood. You know, the Red Cross often will ask us to go and help donate our blood to give to hospitals who need the blood for their surgeries and people who have been in accidents. Well, this particular robotic elephant was donated. So the Indian temple didn't have to spend any money to get it, which is great.
Right. We've got an organization called People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, and it's the chapter in India, or the branch of this organization in India. And they donated this elephant to this temple. And that, of course, means you provide goods and services. You could provide money or blood or whatever.
Time, yeah.
You can donate blood, for example, if you want to help out. I think every once in a while they say that they have a shortage of certain types of blood. So they want people to donate blood, and you can become a blood donor. That's a person who donates something. And here in the next paragraph it says, by conducting religious ceremonies using this mechanical elephant, the temple can help end the suffering of captive elephants. So I'm not really sure if the temple would want to do this. Okay, religion, they're kind of conservative. They don't really like to change too much. But hey, maybe they actually requested this elephant from PETA. And of course, they're going to use this mechanical elephant, which means it uses machines to operate. It's not a living being.
Right. We also have things called mechanical pencils. You wouldn't have to sharpen them. You would just kind of twist something or push the eraser at the end, and the lead in the pencil would poke out. So mechanical pencils, mechanical dolls. I had a jewelry box that had a mechanical doll on the top, and if I turned the key at the back of it, the doll would just rotate in a circle. She was mechanical.
There are mechanical watches as well. Some people prefer them over quartz watches. But again, this is a mechanical elephant. And if they use this elephant, then they can end the suffering and cruelty to captive elephants.
Good.
If you're captive, that means you're kept captive, you're kept prisoner. And a lot of temples, of course, keep elephants, and they're probably treated cruelly. So if they start using these robotic elephants, hey, nobody's going to suffer.
Right. We use captive in another way, too, to talk about someone whose interest has been focused on something. There's something that's really interesting, and they just don't want to look away. You might be a performer and have a captive audience. The audience just loves what they're watching, either on screen if they're watching a movie, or maybe they're watching actors on stage. You've got a captive audience. So these elephants, unfortunately, suffer when they're in captivity. Some zoos are better towards animals than others. I hate to see zoos that mistreat animals. And I know we like to have the animals close enough for us to go and see and visit, but I'm so sad for the animals. I'm sure they would rather be out in the wild and doing what they want to do. Well, this place in India is called Kerala. Kerala, it's home to... If you're home to something, it means that's where something exists. So it's home to around 2,500 such elephants. Wow. They have a lot of them there, many of which are kept illegally. If you're doing something illegally, you're doing something against the law. You've broken the law. Or some of these elephants have been transported without permission. So there are strict rules on how to handle lots of animals, especially elephants, because they want to protect them as much as they can.
Good for them. And of course, these are lots of elephants spread throughout Kerala, which is an area of India there. And of course, they can help end the suffering of captive elephants. And here we've got this phrase, many of which. So in this sentence, we mentioned elephants, and then we want to say something about them. So we say many of which. Okay, so Kerala is home to around 2,500 elephants. And those elephants, or some of those elephants are being kept illegally or have been transported without permission. So that does happen sometimes. You get illegal trafficking of animals because it's cheaper to get them from people like that. And according to PETA, elephants kept in captivity are often abused, which means they're not treated well. Children might be abused or spouses might be abused in families, so you got to watch out for that. And here, animals are often abused. They're just treated cruelly.
They are. So PETA always keeps statistics like that. They like to go and investigate different zoos and different shelters to see how the animals are being taken care of. And then they report back. So elephants kept in captivity are often mistreated, often abused, they're hurt, and those poor elephants. So as a result, they can show signs of psychological distress. Psychological means something to do with your mind. So if you're showing something that shows that you're upset or you're under duress or in distress, we could use both of those, in distress or under duress. It means there's something that is causing you pain emotionally or mentally or even physically. So, unfortunately, these elephants do suffer when they're in captivity. And because they're in pain, they will often strike out at humans around them. Maybe they wouldn't normally, want to hurt a human being. Elephants usually aren't that aggressive, but if an animal is in pain, watch out because they will strike out, and they're very big. So
they got trunks and tusks too,
so you
got to watch out for that.
Well, and those big feet, they could just stomp on you and you're dead.
Squash you like a cockroach, indeed. And yes, we've got incidents where elephants harmed human beings. They hurt them over a period of 15 years. Captive elephants in Kerala have reportedly been responsible for 526 human deaths.
Wow.
That's a lot of people dying there in Kerala, India there, although it's a big area, but we've got all these different elephants, and we don't want to have elephants suffering, and we don't want people getting killed either. And one tragic case is Techikotukavu Ramachandran, a temple elephant held captive for about 40 years that is said to have killed 13 people. So that is one case, one example of elephants harming humans. This one is a tragic case. If there's a tragedy involved, that means somebody got hurt, somebody got killed. It was a bad situation. So this did happen at a temple. It was held captive or was held as a prisoner for about 40 years. And over that time, it killed 13 people.
Wow. So you can see why they're trying to find another solution. They not only want to help these elephants who are treated poorly or cruelly treated or even abused, and they also want to protect people too, because if those elephants are unhappy, they can turn around and then hurt the people that are there. So the temple authorities, people who are in charge of the temple, hope other temples will follow their lead. If you follow someone's lead, you kind of copy what they do. So this is a first temple to have a robotic elephant. And if they all follow the lead of this particular temple, perhaps we'll end up with more robotic elephants and more people who aren't killed. So this is a great plan. I hope the other temples look at this one and kind of follow suit, follow their lead in embracing this cruelty-free innovation, which is a great idea. I like this.
Hopefully, it will be cheaper and easier to operate a robotic elephant than it would be for the real thing.
Oh, you don't have to feed them either.
Right, you don't have to clean up their poop as well.
Yeah.
So maybe you can even charge them using solar power or things like that. So yes, we wish them the best of luck there. And maybe in the future, they can offer tourists rides on those elephants, and the elephants won't have to suffer as a result. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. We have no Chinese teacher. Our Chinese teacher went off to India to pray at a Hindu temple there. Hopefully, I'm kidding, of course. I don't think our Chinese teacher is Hindu, but in any case, that brings us to the end of our lesson. Thank you for joining us, and please join us again next time. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.